Sex God Method, 2nd edition, by Daniel Rose. Picture this: a young guy sitting in front of his computer screen, living his entire life in the glow of a monitor. 5 years ago, his world revolved around getting by in classes and then diving into StarCraft for 6 solid hours every night. His friends? Other gamers online. His love life? Whatever he could find on the internet, not exactly the stuff of romance novels. But something clicked one day. He got tired of watching life happen to everyone else while he sat on the sidelines, so he decided to transform himself. He hit the gym hard, got a decent haircut, cleared up his skin, and basically gave himself a complete makeover. And you know what? Girls actually started noticing him. The problem was, he still didn't have the confidence or social skills to do anything about it. So he went back to work on himself again. He practiced socializing, put himself out there, and within 6 months he had actual friends. He was getting invited to parties. He even kissed a few girls. Then he met someone at work. They talked on the phone for a month, went on some dates, and eventually she invited him over to her place. This was it. Everything he'd worked for was about to pay off. But when their clothes came off, and the moment arrived, his hands were shaking. And then the worst thing that could possibly happen happened. He couldn't get an erection. After all that work, all that transformation, his body just shut down on him. It was absolutely humiliating. He tried for close to an hour before she finally told him to stop. She never called him again. That night, lying there in the darkness of his failure, he made himself a promise. He would figure this out. He would become not just okay in bed, but genuinely great at it. That promise turned into a journey, and that journey became the book we're exploring today, Sex God Method, by Daniel Rose. This isn't your typical collection of bedroom tricks and techniques. It's about a complete mindset transformation. The book promises to take you from wherever you are right now, whether that's feeling average, insecure, or totally lost, and show you how to become what the author calls a sex god. By the time we're done today, you'll understand the 4 psychological foundations of mind-blowing intimacy. These principles have less to do with what you do, and everything to do with who you are. We're talking about a journey from technique to instinct, from thinking to feeling, from insecurity to rock-solid confidence. So where do most guys mess up? According to the author, the biggest mistake is being obsessed with the physical mechanics. We treat intimacy like we're solving a puzzle or debugging code. We think of a woman's body like some kind of machine. Push the right buttons in the right order for the right amount of time, and boom, orgasm achieved. But here's the thing, that completely misses the point. The author asks a simple but mind-bending question: why hasn't sex become obsolete? Think about it. For pocket change, you could buy a toy that replicates the physical sensations almost perfectly. So why do we spend so much time, money, and energy trying to connect with another person? The answer is simple. A toy can give you physical stimulation, but it can never give you psychological stimulation. And for human beings, especially women, the psychological side of sex isn't just important. It's everything. The difference between basic physical release and the kind of sex that leaves you both breathless and changed is entirely in the mind. This insight forms the foundation of what the author calls the first of his 4 principles of sexuality. Psychological stimulation matters more than physical. The other 3 principles flow from this foundation. Second is the importance of dominance. Not aggression or disrespect, but confident, leading energy that makes a woman feel safe enough to completely let go. Third is that instinct and desire are more powerful than any technique you could learn from a manual. And fourth is that sex is the ultimate method of attraction. It's not the end goal of seduction, it's the beginning of a deep, powerful bond. Before building on these principles, we need to understand the common traps. The author identifies 4 types of sexual failure. 4 characters that most men have played at some point. Be honest as you listen. Do you recognize yourself in any of them? First up is the perpetual lovemaker. This is the nice guy who's been told his whole life to respect women, and he takes it way too seriously. In the bedroom, he doesn't have sex, he makes love. He treats her with extreme care, constantly asking permission, terrified of making her uncomfortable. "Honey, would you please," is his signature phrase. He prides himself on being a good guy, but his woman is sexually frustrated. She doesn't want to be asked for permission. She wants to be taken. She craves a man confident enough to lead. Next is the emotionless robot. This guy is cool, collected, maybe even really successful at picking up women. But he brings that emotional distance into the bedroom. For him, sex is about validation, about the thrill of the conquest. He enjoys the fact that he's having sex more than the sex itself. Because he's afraid to open up emotionally, the sex feels detached, like a business transaction. His partner senses this lack of passion, and it stops her from truly opening up too. Then there's the monotonous plotter. The first few times with him might be amazing, but soon the relationship settles into a routine. The spark fades. Sex becomes a scheduled chore. He uses the same moves, in the same order, at the same time. He doesn't realize that one of the core principles of attraction, both in and out of the bedroom, is unpredictability. He never introduces any variety, and the monotony slowly kills her desire. Finally, we have the bedroom technician. This guy has read every book. He knows all the positions, all the angles, all the techniques. He treats sex like a science experiment, constantly analyzing and trying to figure it out. He can give expert advice on forums and sound like a total guru, but in real life his girlfriend is frustrated. She wants a lover, not a gynecologist. He's so stuck in his head, trying to execute the perfect technique, that he fails to connect with his own instincts, and, more importantly, with her. What do all four of these guys have in common? Each one is missing one of the four essential psychological elements of great sex, and these four elements form the entire foundation of the Sex God method. The author calls it the DEVI model. DEVI. Dominance, emotion, variety, immersion. These four pillars are what everything else is built on. Let's start with the first and probably the most misunderstood, dominance. The author argues that millions of years of evolution have programmed women to respond instinctually to dominant men. In our ancestral past, there were alpha males who led, protected, and made the rules, and there were beta males. The alphas survived, thrived, and passed on their genes. As a result, the desire to be submissive to a dominant, confident man is one of the deepest instincts in a woman. But modern society has made this taboo. Men are taught to be passive and overly respectful, and women are taught to suppress this desire. The perpetual lovemaker is the perfect product of this conditioning. But real dominance in the bedroom isn't about being a jerk. It's about being a leader. It's a mentality. It's the belief that as the man, you're giving her a gift by leading her to a place of intense pleasure that she craves, but might be too inhibited to ask for. It's about being decisive. Never ask for something sexual, take it. Don't ask her to do something, tell her. If you want to try a new position, don't ask permission, guide her into it. This confident leadership can even involve what the author calls dominant pain. This is a tricky concept, but it's not about causing actual harm. It's about creating psychological stimulation that reinforces your dominant role. Things like spanking, pulling her hair close to the roots, or pinning her hands down during sex can be incredibly exciting for a woman because it taps into that primal desire to be overwhelmed, to be taken, to lose control. One of the most powerful tools for establishing this dominant frame is dirty talk. This isn't just about saying crude things. It's about communicating a deep understanding of female sexuality. It's about recognizing that beneath the polite, social exterior, every woman has a primal sexual side that's dying to be unleashed. The author outlines several themes for powerful dirty talk. One is acknowledging her inner passion, telling her you know she's been thinking about this all day, even while pretending to be proper at work. Another is possession, using phrases like, "You're my girl," or "You belong to me." This creates a powerful emotional and dominant connection. You can also describe what you're going to do to her, or talk about her being under your control. This dominant talk is most powerful when combined with the second pillar of DV, emotion. Emotion is what separates a one-night stand from a soul-connecting experience. The author says many men, especially those who've been rejected before, build emotional walls around themselves. They become the emotionless robot. They're afraid of getting hurt, so they refuse to open up, but in doing so, they sabotage their own sex lives. To create strong emotions in a woman, you must be willing to feel them yourself. The author describes this as an emotion snowball. It starts small, but as you invest more emotionally, the sex gets better, which deepens the emotional connection, making the snowball bigger and bigger until it's unstoppable. A key way to build this is through emotional talk. This works alongside dirty talk. In one moment, you might be expressing raw desire. In the next, you're telling her how much you love her and how beautiful she is. This combination of the primal and the profound is incredibly powerful. There are three main themes for emotional talk. First, like with dirty talk, is possession. But here it's less about control and more about belonging. Telling her, "You belong to me," or "You're mine," fulfills a deep emotional need to feel claimed and cherished. The second theme is expressing how strongly you feel for her. Don't hold back. While you're intimate, look into her eyes and tell her how close you feel to her, how much you love her. This vulnerability from you gives her permission to feel her own emotions more intensely. The third theme is acknowledging how strongly she feels for you. Women often hide the depth of their feelings, afraid it will scare a man away. By verbalizing it for her, "I can feel how much you love me right now," you bring those emotions to the surface and validate them, making the experience overwhelmingly powerful. The author also introduces more advanced ways to build emotion, like teasing. This is the art of using negative emotions like frustration and deprivation to make the final gratification even more intense. You can bring her to the very edge, then pull back. You can start to undress her, then stop and walk away for a moment. The author tells a story of doing this with one of his girlfriends. He got her incredibly turned on, then suddenly remembered they had to leave for a restaurant reservation. In the car, he teased her physically and verbally. At the restaurant, under the table, he continued, slipping a finger inside her while ordering food from the waiter. He kept her in this state of heightened arousal and frustration for over an hour. When he finally took her to the back seat in the parking lot, the release was so intense, she achieved what he calls the continuously orgasmic state. Another powerful emotional tool is exploring the forbidden. A bit of guilt, when it's not overwhelming, can be an incredible turn-on. Having sex somewhere you're not supposed to, like a friend's house, a semi-public bathroom, or even, as the author dramatically recounts, in a church during an Easter sermon, creates a thrill that can elevate the experience to a whole new level. The key to all of this is balance. You can't be all dominance or all emotion, and this brings us to the third pillar of Devi, variety. The monotonous plotter fails because he lacks variety. He becomes predictable. To avoid this, you must become what the author calls a shapeshifter. He introduces three archetypes of sexual excellence: the sexual beast, who embodies pure, raw dominance; the passionate lover, who is a master of emotion; the tantric master, who achieves perfect mental stillness and immersion. A good lover might be one of these. A great lover, a shapeshifter, can be all of them. One night you might be the sexual beast, taking her with raw, primal energy. The next, you might be the passionate lover, making love slowly and sensually for hours. You can even shift between these personas in a single session. This unpredictability keeps the relationship fresh and exciting forever. Variety isn't just psychological, it's also physical. You should vary the amount of foreplay, the positions you use, the pace and intensity. One of the best ways to introduce variety is by acting out fantasies, which allows you to step into entirely different realities together. Finally, all of this is held together by the fourth pillar, immersion. Immersion is the absence of distracting thoughts. It's being totally in the moment, free from insecurities, fears, or planning. The bedroom technician fails because he lacks immersion. He's too busy thinking. We're taught to think before we act, but in the bedroom, this is poison. Even positive thoughts, like telling yourself, "I'm the man," can be destructive. Why? Because you only need to pump yourself up for things you're not confident about. You don't tell yourself, "I can totally eat this cereal." You just do it. A true master doesn't need to think about being good. He just is. Achieving immersion is about letting go. It's about focusing on your own pleasure and your own sensations, trusting that your natural instincts will guide you. It's about deep, slow breathing. It's about relaxation. And a huge part of immersion is eliminating what the author calls limiting beliefs. These are false ideas about sex that create insecurity and anxiety. One of the biggest is the fear of having a penis that's too small. The author points out this is almost entirely psychological, fueled by pornography. In reality, size has very little to do with a woman's pleasure. Dominance, emotion, and connection are infinitely more important. Another limiting belief is that women don't want dominance. As we've discussed, this is a product of social conditioning that goes against a woman's deepest instincts. And a third is the belief that sex is morally wrong or dirty. This sense of guilt can create a crushing weight that ruins immersion. Achieving sexual mastery is largely about unlearning this harmful programming and embracing sex as a natural, beautiful, and essential part of life. The book goes much deeper into practical applications, but these four pillars, dominance, emotion, variety, and immersion, are the heart of the philosophy. It's not about memorizing 100 different techniques. It's about mastering 4 fundamental mindsets. When you can lead with confident dominance, connect with raw emotion, keep things fresh with endless variety, and stay present with total immersion, you don't need a manual. You become the manual. Your instincts take over, and you're finally free to give and receive pleasure without fear, without anxiety, and without limits. When you step back and look at SexGodMethod, you realize it's about something much deeper than just the physical act of sex. At its core, this book is a guide to a very specific kind of confidence, the kind that comes from understanding the hidden psychological forces that drive human connection. What I find most powerful about Daniel Rose's message is its relentless focus on principles over tactics. In a world always looking for the next quick fix, the next hack, this book forces you to look inward. It suggests that the path to becoming a better lover isn't about learning what to do with your hands, but about unlearning the fears, insecurities, and social programming that hold you back. The Devi model, dominance, emotion, variety, immersion, is a surprisingly elegant framework for something so complex. It simplifies the infinite variables of human intimacy into 4 core areas to focus on. And what's brilliant is how they all work together. You can't truly have deep immersion if you're anxious about leading. You can't have authentic emotion if you're stuck in a boring routine. Each pillar supports the others. The lesson here goes beyond the bedroom. This is a book about leadership, about empathy, and about presence. The call to be dominant is really a call to be a leader, to be decisive, to have a vision, and to create a space where your partner feels safe enough to be vulnerable. The call to be emotional is a call for empathy, to be brave enough to feel your own emotions and to connect with hers. And the call for immersion is a call for presence, a lesson that's just as valuable in a boardroom or a family dinner as it is in the bedroom. So how can you start applying these ideas today in a simple, practical way? First, take a moment for some honest reflection. Think about those 4 types of failure. Are you sometimes the perpetual lovemaker, afraid to take the lead? Or the emotionless robot, keeping your heart guarded? Perhaps the monotonous plotter, stuck in a routine? Or the bedroom technician, overthinking everything? Just identifying your natural tendency is the first, most powerful step toward change. Second, don't try to master everything at once. Pick one pillar of the Devi model and focus on it. If you tend to be passive, maybe this week your goal is to practice dominance in small ways. This doesn't have to be intimate. It could be as simple as decisively choosing the restaurant for dinner, instead of saying, I don't know, what do you want to do? If you tend to be emotionally closed off, maybe your goal is to practice emotion by sharing something vulnerable with your partner, something you normally wouldn't. And third, if you're in a relationship, open up a conversation. The book talks a lot about fantasies, but the deeper message is about communication. Ask your partner, in a safe and non-judgmental way, is there anything you've ever fantasized about that you've been afraid to tell me? Creating that space for honesty is, in itself, an act of leadership and a gateway to deeper connection. That was a deep dive into SexGodMethod by Daniel Rose. We've journeyed through the core ideas today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only take you so far. The real transformation happens when you engage with the material yourself. It's in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple phrase resonates with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to give you a compass, to help you decide if this book's direction is one you want to follow. If anything we've talked about today has sparked your curiosity or hit close to home, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning techniques. It's an experience that can fundamentally change the way you see yourself, your partner, and the nature of intimacy itself. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you a new perspective, please do me a small favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know that this work is making a difference, and it ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep growing together.